Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today in our InfoSec seminar, organized by the Information Systems Security and Assurance Management Department in Mahalshan School of Management. We begin our May InfoSec seminar by acknowledging that although this seminar is being held virtually, Concordia University of Edmonton is located on Treaty 6 territory and a traditional meeting ground and home for many indigenous peoples, including Cree, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Métis, and Nakota Sioux peoples. We respect and acknowledge this. In this seminar, we are pleased to have Srinivasan Subramaniam to give us an interesting talk about your agents acted. Now what? Building the trust layer enterprise AI still needs. Srini is working as CTO for an AI-driven cybersecurity risk management software platform. Srini also operates as an AI consultant working with enterprises to transform their organization through applied AI. Srini is also a community builder while continuing to be active in the technology and AI industry. Srini mentors students in AI, serves as a judge in many hackathons, conducts AI workshops for women in technology students, and is a regular speaker at tech events. Thanks, Srini, for being with us today and sharing your experience with our audience. Just one quick note, during the presentations, microphones will be turned off to avoid interrupting the speaker. At the end, we will have 10 to 15 minutes for questions, and microphones will be turned back on. Please limit yourself to one question to give opportunity to other participants to ask. If we have enough time, please feel free to re-ask again. And at the end, I will share the registration and feedback form with you. So please ensure you provide your name, email address, and a brief feedback so we can send you your certificate of attendance. Thanks. It's all yours, Srini, now.
Thank you so much, Islam, and hope I am audible.
Yes, you are.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, everyone. Srini here. So Islam already covered my intro, so I'll not spend time. What I would do today is my objective is to share my experience, my thoughts, and learn from you too. So keep it interactive towards the end. Let's learn together. So I want to give a practitioner view of how to build a trust layer. Since I work in a startup as a CTO, I'm also hands-on build things, build AI agents. So I want to give a practitioner view. And our product is GRC platform for building governance layers. So I'll give some view from that perspective as well. So I'll try to club both. Hopefully you'll find it interesting. Okay, so before getting into the details of trust, what has changed? Right, so traditionally we were using SaaS application, probably came up from early 2000, 2002. So that's where we were, the web applications came in, then SaaS application came in. So what happens is that we click, it responds, right? Static and predefined. That has been our interaction with the software, maybe 10 to 15 years. Then in 2022 is when the ChatGPT moment happened. It was an assistant to start with. Now it does some agent work, but primarily it was an assistant. It was conversational. We ask questions. It acts very conversational and responds back with answer. Okay, so this was 2022, 3 years, 4 years back. So then came the agent, right? So now everyone is talking about agentic AI and AI agents. So what is the difference between agent and application assistant? With agent, we describe a goal and then the agent acts on it in 100% autonomous way or human in the loop. That depends on the autonomicity provided to the agent, but it will help us to achieve the goal. It will not stop in between. It will not just respond to what we ask. It will complete the goal. That's the key difference between application assistant and agent. So from a trust perspective, What is important is it can make decisions, it can do reasoning. Right? So that is something that we need to be aware of. And it needs new kind of trust. The traditional trust, what we have been building around application assistant, will not work. The key difference in application assistant way, human in the loop was primary. The decision making was done by the human. So it's always easier to check the complaints, check from an audit perspective, from a governance perspective. But it's very different in agent. Let me do a deep dive on agent. If for some it may be a repeat, it may sound basic, but I thought it's a good context to know what is the capability of an agent, right? How it operates. That is important to know to build a trust layer around that. So what it can do, it is pretty much it can do like a human, right? I always correlate this. So what it does is perceive, think, act, learn in a loop. This is pretty much similar to the human model, human mental model. So if we are given a goal, say for example, book a holiday ticket for summer or book a travel ticket for summer trip, right? So what do? We first perceive that, gather the input, then we'll think through it. We will reason, we'll say, hey, let me go to Skyscanner, let me go to booking.com. We'll think of various options, we'll plan action, which location, which time, all that planning will happen. Then we act. So while we do the act, we always use tools, right? We use websites, mobile apps, we'll use all the tools and then act on it. So once this process is complete, we also take a learning from it and store it in our memory, right? So when next time happens, we do the same loop. This is the human mental model, and this is exactly what an AI agent also will replicate. Given a goal, it can perceive, it'll interact with you, ask questions if it is not good enough. It will reason, it will plan actions. Then it'll act. Right? It'll use tools, web search, file search, payment gateway. It'll if you provide access to all of its tools, it can act on your behalf. And it also has a memory system. Any agent will have a short-term memory, long-term memory, where it stores the learning and uses that when it does this again. It's not only a one-time loop. It's important to understand till it achieves a goal, the same loop may continue. Right? It may keep on doing that. So it's a perceive, think, act loop, act workflow in a loop. That is what an agent's capability is. So there is something very important to understand, because if enterprise has agents, you need to know what capability it has. So like we discussed, the key challenges, human in the loop may be there, may not be there. Every enterprise is taking a journey. Now everyone has human in the loop because the trust is not completely built, right? It is garnering trust. The AI agents, the LLMs behind it is still gaining trust. So enterprises deployment don't give 100% autonomicity, rightly so, right? Human in the loop is still there, but this is the full capability of an agent. So very important to know this. Okay. So that's the agent's capability, right? So what is the landscape today? There are three different landscapes, right? I can categorize them, any agent, into these three categories, or this is the landscape. The first one is out of the box agent, right? You would have used ChatGPT, you would have used Claude, you would have used Claude Code. Many developers use Cursor. many business users use Cloud Cowork. So these are out-of-the-box agents that is available to you, right? This is one set of part of a landscape. Then there are ecosystem agents, the existing applications in the enterprise, right? For example, Salesforce has a agent called Agentforce. Microsoft Copilot Studio helps you to create your own agent, right? Which will work with Copilot ecosystem, Microsoft ecosystem. So these are ecosystem agents. It's not completely built out of the box, but you use tools and build an agent which will work with the existing ecosystem. Right. So that is another part of agents, right, which is called ecosystem agents. Then there are agents which are custom built. That means from grounds up, the enterprises builds an agent because none of these two out of the box or the ecosystem helps them. If there is a completely a business process is automated in an app, that's a potential to become a custom built agent. You will replace that application as an agent. So these are the three types of agents that exist in market today, and the governance gap, the trust model has to be different for each, right? So that is important to understand. That's why I'm highlighting this landscape. If it is out of the box agents, primary guardrails control exists with vendor, right? Whoever provides that, be it Microsoft, be it Anthropic, be it OpenAI. The control, the action needed from our side would be, how do I configure that guardrail, set rules in the guardrail. So the kind of control you have in out-of-the-box agent would be minimal, obviously, but we got to implement a trust layer within this constraint. Ecosystem agents, it's shared responsibility because you take half-baked out-of-the-box agent, customized for you. So there's a shared responsibility. You got to work with vendor, and enterprises got to work with vendor, and also internally has to see if right guardrails are in place. Custom built agent, 80% is with the enterprise. Yes, you'll still use the models, but 80% will be with you. So depending on the agent landscape, the governance surface also will be different. That's the key message in this. Okay, so what does the platforms gives us today for an enterprise? It gives a runtime security, right? And they do it reasonably well. For example, it has out of the box prompt injection defense. People cannot go and tamper it. You cannot extract information using prompt. There are good defense mechanism in popular models. Is it like complete foolproof? No, but it provides a reasonable good protection. The tool sandboxing, right, where the data lies, whether the model uses the data for training or no, all that security guardrails is already provided by platform. It does reasonably well, right? Not bad. But the challenge is that's a runtime security, right? How it runs, how it handles data. But what also needs, the enterprise needs is in an agent or an application using the AI, what it needs is that it also needs to build certain accountability, transparency, right? If you have to break it down in simple terms, we need to know who made the decision, who's accountable for, can the action decision made by the application agent can be reversible, reproducible, can it be shown to the auditor? All that comes one level above the runtime security. So that is something we need to be aware of. Enterprises needs to be aware of. This is especially comes in if you are doing a second and third part. If it is out of the box agents, you don't have to worry much about this. But if you're doing a custom agent or a complete ecosystem agent, then you got to be really careful about this. Okay, so are there guidance, compliance framework, are those available? Yes, they are available, but this entire topic itself is very future looking because agents are getting traction, so it's all evolving. So the best and simple form is NIST. NIST has a AI risk management framework. So it says if you have these 7 characteristics, if the application or the agent has these 7 characteristics, then your agent or application is built with responsible AI or a trustworthy AI. So this is, I would suggest this is a good starting point to refer to. While ISO 42001 exists, that's obviously being a framework, it is a bit complex, but this is a good starting point. The NIST ARMF is a very good starting point. So at a high level, what does it say? It says the characteristics should be safe, it should be reliable, there should be good accountability, explainability, bias should be managed, privacy control in place, and it has to be secure. Right? It appears overwhelming, should we really bother so much? But looking at the capability of an agent, yes, it does make sense. These controls needs to be in place. There should be controls in place to check the characteristics of this. Enterprises needs to be aware of risks associated with this. Some may be internal risks, some may be external risks. For example, if the agent is internal focused, the risk is only internal, right? But if the agent, there are many customer support agents now available, right, which replaced L1, L2 support, right? The customer, there are so many agents which can respond to your voice calls. So those are all external facing. So then the risk level is even higher if these characteristics are not taken care of. So this is a good starting point of what characteristics an agent should have. But again, this gives direction, right? Or it defines the destination. How do I approach a journey towards this? So that's where I propose this model based on my experience. You can break this into 4 levels, capability levels, not compliance level. L1, L2, L3, L4 doesn't talk about compliance level. It's more on capability level. You can start, enterprises can start with ACT, whether agents can run and complete tasks. Right, so that is something that can be a level 1 capability. Level 2 is it's a building block, step up model. Right, level 2 and 3 is about observe and explain, whether agents is observing it and it is able to explain it. Then you can approach the level 4 of prove. Right, so I've also put together who could be potential owner. ACT, that is where most of the organizations by default they be there. The AI operations team needs to own this level, right? They know how to build the observability into the agents, and the AI engineering team owns the explainability part of it, right? The compliance team obviously owns the proof part of it. So like I said, this again evolving field. So this is just based on my experience. So one other thing we need to be clear is like there also should be a way to evaluate the agents, because obviously the traditional governance, auditing all happened around evidence, and the traditional applications creating evidence is easier in a relative terms when compared to agents. With agents, since it's kind of a black box or a gray box, so there needs to be good way to evaluate agents on these 7 characteristics. right? That's very important. How the AI agent eval itself is a separate field that is growing, that is evolving, right? So the evaluation of the agents is something that will be very demanding as well going forward. So though we need to build in, the agents also will be mandated to expose all these metrics. How am I doing on transparency, bias, hallucination, accuracy? All that is evolving. There are metrics are evolving. How do I incorporate that metrics, automatic collection of metrics into the agent? That is also evolving, right? All that will evolve. So it'll mandate agent to expose these data. So there may be a question, how does we collect all this information? There are a couple of techniques. One, what is quantitative, what agent can think itself, human in the loop based on user feedback, external evaluations. And there'll be organizations evolving to do such activity as well, in addition to complaints organization. So it's a combination of what agent can think or collect on themselves in terms of observability, what human feedback is being given, fed into it, what external agencies think about it in terms of performance. So all three will happen, is my view. Metrics is evolving, and agents will be expected to publish in data sheets, right? The current data sheets talks about memory requirements, performance aspects of it, but it will also talk about these characteristics. So that will happen as we move forward. So this again need to be kept in mind. If you are deploying an agent, how are we evaluating it is something there should be a clear strategy. Okay, governance part. Without governance, evaluation is just testing. So we need a PRC framework, right, which is designed specifically for AI agents or AI application. The existing policies will need updates. If you can relate to the 7 characteristics, the capabilities of agent, the policy needs to be updated. How are we deploying it? How is audit logging happening? What is the explainability policy, attestation policy? All that will come into picture. Similarly, new risks are evolving. ARMF gives reasonable direction. So we need to take and customize it for our environment, and the new controls and process happens. So definitely the existing PRC platforms needs to be enhanced for this PRC setup. And the product I am working on as a CTO, the backstop, is also designed for this, and it supports the AI framework, NIST framework. Like I said, it will be a good reference for you. Everything happens around late 2025 in 2026 about how the agents can be evaluated, what standards initiatives are needed, how do we measure trust, risk, and security. All that is evolving, and it's all happening in 2025, 2026. So it's pretty niche field that is happening. Okay, so if you are an enterprise, my suggestion is to ask questions in these 4 levels. Right, whether the agents, applications I have, if you can evaluate that against these 4 levels of capability, it will be a good start, right? Whether it is able to act, how much of observability is there, so that you can reconstruct exactly what your agent did yesterday. Explain, document, is it documenting the reasons? Is it providing the right citations? I responded because of this information, right? So that's one way of explainability. And is it ready to prove? I know level 4 is tough now. Many are in level 1 or level 2, but it'll be a good starting point. Okay, so I'll stop here. 30 minutes, not bad, I hope. So any questions, thoughts for discussion, please?
Thank you so much, Srivasan, for this interesting talk. So, do we have any? I'll first unmute you. So, do we have any questions? Yes, Dr. Patrick, please go ahead.
Thank you so much for a very interesting, very timely, important topic. My question is around safety, and just want to hear, I guess, your thoughts around how safe are these agents, and if maybe you've seen some cases where things have gone wrong in regards to, safety and accuracy.
Yeah, so good question. The challenge is there definitely, and the risk of safety goes up as the autonomicity is higher, right? So if you make agent to do everything on its own, your risk is higher. Now, how it is being managed is the critical decisions are always in human in the loop, right? So they do all the required work for you, but human decides it. So that is a good way of ensuring safety in it. But even then, the agents can do certain decisions, make certain actions on its own, but those guardrails needs to be put into the agent. For example, to simplify, I might say, I'd never ever do the web search, never ever do the financial decisions for me. Right? I could put a guardrail like that. So yes, it is still a challenge, but human in the loop approach is the best part. But if autonomicity should be given, careful evaluation of what decisions it can make needs to be thoroughly studied. Otherwise, theoretically, the risk of not being safe is high if you give autonomicity.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Thank you. So we have another question in the chat. So at a high level, how do organizations evaluate their own models versus existing enterprise models like ChatGPT or Cloudy?
Yeah, so if I can, the models, okay, if you're talking about models, the models are like, if it is from OpenAI, it is GPT, not ChatGPT. ChatGPT is an agent built on top of the model. If it is Claude, Claude is a chat application. Internally, it uses 3 models. Anthropic has Opus, Sonnet, Haiku. Those are the models. So the question is, can I go ahead with frontier models or have my own models? And the question is that, obviously, if you're using frontier models, your data goes to the cloud, gets processed, and it comes back to you. If that is a security issue for you, then the organizations can host their own models in their data center, and they are totally will be cut off from the cloud, right? So that's an approach it can be taken. But the challenge obviously is, how do I maintain the model? If there are issues with the model, who will fix it? It is traditional commercial versus open source software decision. Hopefully I answered it. Otherwise, if I mistook the question, I can please, whoever raised it in the chat, let me know.
No, thanks. Any other questions? So maybe I will ask a question. So what technical challenges have you faced when trying to prove that AI agent act correctly, even when security controls were already in place?
Yeah, thanks again. A good question. So one biggest challenge, two things. We built an agent in Backstop. So the 2 key things that happened is, one is hallucination, other one is determinism. Right? How do I, to keep it taking a step back and to keep it simple, you ask an LLM model same question multiple times, it will give a different answer every time, right? So that is a challenge with the LLM model because the same question can be answered differently. So how do we avoid this is the key part. So the one of the approach we took, again, the determinism, right? It cannot be non-deterministic, right? It has to be deterministic. So we clearly separated out what is critical is kept out of LLM. What is not so critical, we went to LLM. For example, the summarization, the advisory findings, all that we went to LLM because it's low risk. But calculation of metrics, we didn't use AI. We used the traditional approach. So it has to be managed that way. So the key challenge to answer you, Islam, is like determinism. How do we bring in determinism into the agent?
Great. Thank you so much. Any other questions?
So I have another question,
Yes.
Aslam. So it's really interesting topic, and I'm so curious to learn more about the determinism that you talked about. So that's probably some homework for me to dig into. But I have a question which maybe is more of a philosophical question around this idea of AI agents supposed to make our work easier because they take care of repetitive, manual, tedious tasks. But then the challenge is that they might be making work more intense because you still have to be that human in the loop, verifying accuracy, making sure everything makes sense, which maybe you end up doing the work anyways. So just curious about your thoughts around that idea and, does it make sense? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Interesting thought. Where is it currently now? It is not in a position to replace humans, right? It's still not there. It is still in assistive mode, right? The best way to leverage is to be an assistant to you, which will cut down 30-40% of your work, right? I don't think it will replace 100% of it because at least in the current language models, there are hope and there are vision that AGI will come in, the world models will come in, and it'll have an emotional aspect to it, but it's at least 10 years away, right? So we don't have, and within 10 years, we don't know what changes will happen. For now, it is a good assistant to us, and definitely we should leverage it, right? It will not replace, it cannot replace, except in one area, which is software development. That is where it is moving very fast, where in other places, 30% impact may be there. It can assist you and optimize that, but software engineering, it's happening very fast, right? 70-80%. It has the ability to replace 70-80% of workforce.
So yeah, that's really fascinating. So I'm very interested in labor markets, and I guess this impact that you're talking about on replacing jobs in software development is quite interesting. Is it because the AI maybe is very good at those sort of deterministic type of tasks, whereas for tasks which require maybe more human intuition, it tends to struggle, it might hallucinate, and so that becomes the main challenge for.
Yeah. So just to add on to my thoughts, there is also another theory, even in software engineering, now it has become easier to build a software. So there'll be a lot more software being built and the workforce impact may not be high. So there is two set of theories. Only time will tell the reality. But here, at least to answer your question, in other aspects, non-software engineering, the number of dimensions variables are high, that it's not able to easily replicate it. But in software engineering, it is very relative to others, it is defined, and scope and goal and objective are clear. So it's able to produce a lot more replaceable work.
Yeah, very interesting. Thanks so much.
Thank you. So, Ayan, please go ahead.
Yeah, my quick question and my thought has been, how do we constrain the agent so that it can only be doing a subset task, and that it, one way or the other, that it cannot go and remove the database, delete it, delete the backups, etc., and be an item? And then how do we protect the information going to, especially in external large language models, so that personal identifiable information doesn't leak out, or corporate information isn't sent and can be constituted back in a AI query from a third party?
Oh, thank you. Good questions. I'll address the second part first. Two things happening. One, second part of keeping the data local, not sharing to the cloud. The clean solution, but bit expensive, is host your own model. For example, there are open source LLMs. Google is very good at it. Recently, it released a Gemma 4 model, which is pretty good. There are Chinese models. If you're okay, you can pick it up. So these open source models are really good for 70%, 80% of what we want to achieve. You don't have to go to the frontier models like Anthropic or OpenAI. For example, if it is a OT environment in Alberta ecosystem, we don't want the data to go out. Right? So then you can locally host a model, still achieve a capability. Second part, the existing ecosystem. Second subpart, for example, Microsoft, Anthropic, they're all closely working with enterprises and giving a lot more guardrails. I'll use this data in your own country, and I will keep that isolated sandbox within your company ecosystem, like how Microsoft 365 works, right? So that is another layer that these companies are building, so that data stays within your cloud ecosystem. To summarize, if you don't want anything to go out, host local models. If you're open to work with big companies through contracts, Microsoft, Anthropic, they all give a layer, guardrail layer, contract-based agreements. So that's the answer to the second question. First question, how do we control? Again, if you're building a custom-built agent, the control is with you. You can always restrict it, what it needs to do. But if you're using a out-of-the-box agent, yes, the guardrails are limited. What is provided to us is what we can play with. So, Ian, I'll stop here. Any questions?
Yeah, no, I just want to finish there. You should be able to harden it, but that's something for someone to look up, to research or something.
Correct.
You should be able to wrap it. This is what's in my mind right now. We should be able to wrap it in with SE Linux, for example, and other types of mandatory access control in that. You treat it as a person and give them only access, firewall it, etc.
Oh, yeah.
And force proxy. Force it to go through a proxy if you have to go out and work with a contract. Don't trust the contract. Trust what you give them.
Yeah, no, fair point.
And you have to put constraints around it.
Yeah, fair point. Yes, you can achieve that.
Yeah, no, it doesn't solve all the problems. And then the second question to ask from the research point of view is, what's the minimum? What are the elements that make it, from the point of view that it can escape itself? Like, what constraints force it to work within the constraint? And if you list this service off for whatever reason, it now opens the whole, it can now undo itself. It can undo all its protections and be a wild animal now, just by lifting that protection off. That's simple.
True. For example, you can always put checkpoints, guardrails, constraints. Hey, for example, never ever touch my infrastructure, never ever touch my database, right? You always ask me and as the human, and then move on. So you can
what
build
I'm saying, there is constraints that you can do with the configuration of the system. I'm saying you need to put a bigger envelope around it, outside of the device, outside of the agent itself. That it's on a process, on any Linux box or in a container or whatever, and that the container itself has put the constraints on it first and foremost.
That's interesting.
I mean, I'll take would like to talk detail, but just the idea.
No, that's an interesting thought. That's interesting thought, right? The other infrastructure interacts with can also have guardrails. That's what you're saying, right? Which is
external guardrails to the agent itself and treat it.
Very nice, very good idea.
Exactly, like put it under mandatory access control, for example.
Yeah.
Great.
That's a very good idea.
Thank you, Ayan. So we'll take maybe one last question from Olamide. Please go ahead.
Hello, hi, good afternoon. Thank you so much for the presentation. I just wanted to ask one question because I'm a master's student here in Concordia, and I just wanted to know, I don't know if the question might really be from the perspective of the presentation, but I just wanted to know, now that organizations are moving towards focusing on AI and the use of AI for majority of their work, do you think from a security perspective that it's feasible where because obviously people will say there will still be individuals working with the AI, but then when the AI has, the emotional perspective of it being added to the AI itself, do you think it's going to be feasible where, no one is going to be working with the AI?
No.
The only situations where there's issues. Say, for example, I try to break it down. When we started the creation of calculators, before calculators, individuals could use their brain to do high-end calculations. But now, majority of the times, we make use of our calculators, we make use of the internet. But in a situation where, we have an issue, say, for example, a cyber attack, and then there's no access to the internet, we necessarily would not be able to make use of the AI tool in that situation. And then if we don't have individuals that were groomed to understand exactly how the AI works, that would be a very, very tough perspective, because how then do we work, or how then do we do our jobs when most of the things we're doing were all done by the AI? So I wanted to see what's your perspective on that. Do you think organizations still need to groom, maybe say academic, like young individuals or people that would be able to understand exactly how the AI works, so when the AI has an issue, say like you said, hallucination, if something like that happens, somebody might be able to do exactly how it works without even making use of the AI itself? I don't know if you get that.
Yeah, interesting thought. My perspective, AI will not replace human completely, for sure, because there is a lot of creative angle, emotional angle that is there in many of the processes. But it'll definitely come to 30-40% of doing existing job, right? So that's a possibility. Higher percentage in software engineering, right? Let us be realistic with that. Related note, most people are not hiring the fresh graduates, which will be a problem for them in 5 years, 7 years. Soon the companies will realize they have to build a pipeline of fresh energy, right?
Yeah.
Now they are in cost pressure, they are behaving tactically, but they'll think strategically at some point and bring in new pipeline. So coming back, so my view, it will assist and replace 25-30% impact, more impact in software engineering currently as we see. Will it ever replace completely? No, I think, like I answered. And second part, even if you look at the evaluation of calculator, we lost our arithmetic brain, then information overloading, right? Information was easily accessible. All that change happened. but we still keep solving complex problems, right? So uh, similarly, the AI will replace certain basic skills for sure. I don't create presentations now on. I don't code myself nowadays. It's all AI is doing. So those skills will go away, but the basic problem solving will still be there. And the focus will shift to somewhere else is my view, but that somewhere else, no one knows where the shift will go. No one is able to answer it, but it will move, right? AI will become like a base skill for everyone. That is what will happen.
Sorry,
That's my view.
just the last. I just wanted to say, don't you think it's like in a possible way where there's probably like a policy that says every organization should have like a program where they are grooming individuals to know exactly, so we don't, because if it's more like a privatized or like what I say selfish organization, companies trying to just save money and not employ so much so they don't spend on paying salaries and stuff, in a situation where something happens where we cannot make use of the AI, everyone is going to suffer, because whatever business you start up, you are doing it to serve your customers. But in that situation where you're not able to make use of the tool that you're using to serve your customers, not only does the business suffer, but also the customers suffer. So I was thinking that, is it not possible where organizations, I mean, government or policies are made that every organization is supposed to have, alongside their AI, still a program that like grooms individuals on knowing exactly how the AI does, even when the AI is doing majority of the hard task, but the individual is still able to alongside understand what is going on. So in situations where there's an incident, the individual can take over from the AI.
Yeah, it's broader social issue of how the countries will approach this, companies will approach this, but I'm sure there'll be a solution. I'm not able to think beyond certain future and comment on that, but there'll be a solution. It'll become a social problem if it becomes a lot more intelligent, and as a society, we'll find a solution. Is what I'm thinking.
All right, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So maybe like we'll take this last question from Emmanuel. Like when it comes to data privacy and compliance, how does the system enforce rule-based access control to enterprise data sources?
Yeah, Emmanuel, there are controls available. You can always say, hey, there is also user identity baked in the agent actions. So the agent can restrict the data access based on the identity of the user. So that is pretty much possible. The traditional application approach applies here too.
Great, thank you. So please ensure you provide your name, email address, and a brief feedback so we can send you your certificate of attendance. I shared the link with you in the chatting area. So before we wrap up, I'd like to extend a huge thank you to Srini for sharing his expertise with us today. We truly appreciate you taking the time to speak with our community. Thank you, Srini, and thank you all for attendance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.